Welcome everyone. It's wonderful that you can join us today. We're here at 300 King Street in Chappaqua. This is a new or renovation of a building into affordable passive house new apartments. And I wanted to first say thank you to the BRI, to Tim Foley for helping to arrange this, and for Anika for being here to videotape this. And we're hoping you enjoy this educational time for learning about how to build affordable passive homes. I wanted to thank Victoria Bruno and Roy Stillman for joining us on this tour. And my partner Keiko is here with us, and she'll have something she'd like to tell us about the passive house when we're going to retire to the inside of the house at that point and talk about the details. So I'd like to introduce Jim Kaloran, and he'll come and tell us about the Fuller Center of Greater New York.
The Fuller Center's mission is a simple one. We want every New Yorker to have a simple, decent roof over their head, and to create home ownership in a state where everybody is leaving. We're leaving by the largest numbers ever. And so home ownership, which we all hope and dream about, is one of those things that changes the history of all of our families' lives. It's not always the most popular thing, because there's a lot of affordable rentals and there's nothing wrong with that. But ownership creates wealth, equity, and Millard Fuller and his wife Linda started Habitat for Humanity. They built in 170 countries, probably should have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize. 15 years ago I helped found the Fuller Center when he was asked to leave with Linda, and we built 6,000 homes in 15 years. And I've been doing this forever. And excitingly, this historic house will save 80% for utilities. Bill will talk about that. But I've been building green before it was in vogue. Some of you saw we built the Bob Vila house in a week on national TV in Yonkers. We've used structured insulated panels, solar panels, a zero energy house, concrete SIPs, anything that can save our families real money, and developers and partners, so that they can have more money in their pocket for college or for taxes, so they can afford to live in this great state.
So welcome to the interior of our building here. We're going to do a quick moving tour in a minute to show you all the wonderful details in here. And Keiko's going to talk about some of the passive house goals. But I wanted to give you a quick little history of the building. This was originally a Quaker meeting house that was constructed in the 1820s on the other side of town. It was built out of hand-hewn beams, and many of which are still existing in the building. We'll show you those. The Quakers unfortunately had a schism in the 1880s, and so as part of the outcome of that, one group got the building to dismantle and reconstruct here. So that happened in 1883. It was a beautiful Victorian style building that they created out of what was originally the very simple Quaker style. The Quakers used this as a meeting house through about the 1950s, and then sold the building to a local Lutheran congregation, who then used it for their sanctuary till the 70s, and then the Lutherans moved to using a different building for sanctuary, and this became their nursery school. And in fact, our kids, who are all in their late 20s and early 30s, went to nursery school here. So we're very pleased to be a part of that recycling of the use of the building for more community purposes. The last piece of the story was that in 2013, 2014, the Lutheran congregation was closing down and was trying to sell this building. We decided this would be a great place to try to do affordable housing. The town was very excited about finding opportunities for creating more affordable housing. So we got Jim Kaloran and the Fuller Center together with the Lutheran Church, together with the county, and put together a transaction where the county bought the property as part of the settlement for creating more affordable housing, and then donated it to Fuller Center. And we're now in the result of creating 2 more affordable housing units as a result of that process. So now we're going to talk about the passive house goals, and Keiko's going to give us a little oversight of the passive house method.
We are the global citizen and responsible for climate action. So we are proposing this affordable, sustainable building which uses passive house standard as to create safer, comfortable, and healthier and quieter environment for people to live here. Passive house overall consists of high quality windows and doors, as well as well sealed and taped insulated walls and roof and floor, and very simple mechanics that necessary to keep fresh air is either ERV or HRV depending on location of that building. So overall, it's the very important for our environment for many generations to able to live on this earth together. The mechanics of it.
The triple locking mechanics
yeah.
in the frame.
Why don't you close that door hard? I like the sound of
Okay.
it. Wait till you hear this. That's a solid door
Right.
and frame.
And then you still lift up the handle and get that really locked in place.
Nobody's coming in here unwanted. There's another savings. You don't need an alarm system.
The core pieces of passive house construction are the exterior enclosure and trying to make that as highly insulated and well sealed as possible, and then the doors and windows, and making those, you know, using as highly sealed and insulated doors and windows as we can. So let's talk about the parts. So we're standing on a second floor, so the construction of that is standard. Wanted to mention quickly, our first floor underneath of us here was built on grade essentially, and there was a gravel bed. Remember, this was the original Quaker meeting house. It was a barn, and so they had a wood floor, wood frame floor over a gravel bed. And there was even a stream running through the gravel bed. So we've also added in there a waterproof membrane to help keep the moisture that would necessarily be coming out of the ground from coming into the space. So that's an sort of indication of the two key elements we try to add into all these exterior layers is more insulation, and then particularly at the floor, a waterproof membrane. And we even wrap that membrane up the stone wall that's on the lower floor below us to keep moisture from coming through that wall. Now the exterior walls. So what you see here, the white material on the inside is an air barrier, and moving from that layer through the wall, we have a second layer of framing that we added to the building. So we've created this as a double wall construction. There are two framed walls. They're about 13 inches total from inside to outside of that layer. and we filled that with a blown cellulose insulation. The membrane on the interior holds that insulation in place so that we can actually pressure that blown cellulose into the joist bays and filling that whole cavity. And one of the downsides of typical bad insulation is that it leaves gaps and other kinds of openings as the bats get placed. So that reduces the effectiveness of that insulation. Whereas with the blown cellulose, we're really filling it, pressure filling it even, into the spaces, so that we've very well created that frame, that insulation.
And then inside we have a service wall, which is separate from that double wall that we are talking about.
Right. So we'll put electrical and plumbing piping and all that in the service cavity so that we don't have to penetrate that air barrier. And you see that the air barrier, we've taped the joints on it. If there's something that does have to go through it, we'll tape that penetration. And so again, that's part of this overall goal of really sealing up the construction well. On the outside face of the original framing, we've got a layer of plywood that's typical sheathing, and then we've applied to that a weather barrier on the outside face. That's a separate layer. It's kind of like doing Tyvek on a typical construction, but
the vapor barrier.
It's a vapor permeable barrier.
Yeah.
And again, all those joints are taped and sealed so that we've created these two layers that are air barriers, so that we don't have outside air and inside air meeting each other somewhere in the wall. And that's typically where you get the worst issues of condensation and mold, where moist interior air meets cold outside dry air, and now you got moisture, or reverse in the summertime.
What would you estimate that in terms of savings and in the expense for a homeowner?
Well, we might talk about it in terms of payback. So a passive house project has a payback period of somewhere between 3 and 4 years. So, and we talked about before, Roy asked a great question. Well, what's the additional cost, right? You're building a double wall, much thicker than a standard construction. We're actually doing a project now where we ask the contractors to give us pricing of a code standard, and then what's the add-on for passive house, and they've come back as about a 10% added premium on the construction cost, and so that 10% premium cost is very quickly made up in terms of the year-to-year energy savings of that structure.
Is there any impact at all on insurance costs?
A very common element added in for insulation these days is spray foam insulations, and we try to avoid those completely in our construction, and even some green energy efficient builders will still use spray foam. One thing about spray foam is it's a mixture of two chemicals in the field that are then sprayed into the walls. It's a flammable material, so many people who are putting spray foam into their homes are ending up with a flammable material inside their walls that off gases. So we,
also rodents like to eat those.
Oh yeah,
we found out.
Saw a project where
a major issue.
The inside of the wall was eaten out by rodents going through the mice going through the spray. So so from that perspective, using green products, using natural products, certainly gets away from flammable materials, as it were, chemical-based materials that we're trying to avoid.
Did you design for a generator then, or they have to?
They could do their own. They could certainly create the generator. No, we didn't. That's not good.
I was wondering if there was any problems, being that it is a historical building.
Generator is not recommended for passive house, because generator itself uses either gasoline or electrical or gas that may off gas directly into the air. That creates even more
I thought
issues.
There might have been a battery powered.
Yeah, there are. Right.
There. Yeah. So battery power is another aspect. If we want to go net zero with this building, solar panels and batteries, that would be the ideal.
One building, we're doing affordable housing, which is really important in all of our communities. We're doing it with a very energy efficient method of construction, which both on a micro level for that buyer user, it saves the money for how it operates, but then on a macro level, we're trying to do our part to help in climate action and reducing carbon usage. The third story we've incorporated here is adaptive, historic, rehabilitation, where we're restoring a building to, its historic character. So we're very happy that we've been able to accomplish, or getting to accomplish those goals. And, so thank you very much. We appreciate that you both were able to join us, and thank you to members of the RI. We're looking forward to seeing everybody on February 4th virtually, and hopefully they have appreciated and enjoyed our little tour here.
It's a copy of what was originally on this building, and we're recreating it. There's some sections up outside, and it's a little hard to do, but it gets into a rhythm. And the nice thing about working on something like this, if I have a problem, there's people that can tell me, here's how I'd do it. So you don't have to rely on yourself all the time. You have other folks that are here that know far more about carpentry than I ever will, thank God. And they lead me along the path. So I've worked on this, I've worked on other projects around here. Some of it just basic carpentry, putting up studs. You work with a lot of interesting people, most of whom don't have a background in what they're doing, which is kind of interesting. All in all, it's been fun. I'm still enjoying it. If you can volunteer, come and do us. Join us. We'd love to have you.
Hi, I'm Steve Biolsi. I'm the construction manager for the Fuller Center of Greater New York City. This is our project in 300 King Street in Chappaqua. It's our first passive house project. We've done plenty of green building. This is our first passive house, let alone affordable housing, let alone historical rehab in Chappaqua. That's the challenge that's in front of us, and that's where volunteers are answering that call. Our goal is to take this converted church and make it a two-family home, extremely energy efficient, again, affordably with that volunteer labor. So they come in, they volunteer their time, and we teach them those skills, whether it's how to use the saw, how to build it efficiently, how to use the insulation right, what good products to use inside the home, healthier products to use inside their home. At the end of it, they're learning those skills, and we get two families who have a wonderful home that helps their families hopefully for generations to come. We sell that cost to the families because the volunteers donate their time. That keeps the cost down. We pass those savings on to them. So where we can build it for, that's what we sell it for, is a not-for-profit. We also give them a 0% interest to mortgage. That keeps the affordability in check. And also, instead of a down payment, the families work 500 hours on their own house is our typical example. It teaches them those skills. It makes them better homeowners, gives them pride of ownership. And because they are low income, they might not have that money in savings. They're able to put that in their labor instead. We call it sweat equity. That's how we go about it. The goal to this, of course, the end goal is to give these two families a good, clean, healthy home, affordable home. But also, in the meantime, we're trying to show that green building doesn't have to just be for high end. It can be done by volunteers. It's simple enough that you can do it right and do it well. It can be done affordably. It can be done in a place like Chappaqua with a historical building. That all these challenges aren't insurmountable. If we can do it with these challenges in front of us, then almost anybody else can as well. That's our goal. That's what we're trying to do.
We need all of you to come and volunteer and help come and visit here. We have a lot of companies like Tri-State, Pro Builder Solution. Many have helped to volunteer and donate supplies to us or build. When we get a team of your staff, it's like 6 months of our volunteers. We need you to come and help us. And I want to thank Westchester County, George Latimer, the planning department. They partnered with us, and so many that have come out here to change what was a falling down church and make it into 2 passive condos where the families will have the history of their lives changed forever. The excitement is building. FullerCenterNY.org. We got a hammer for you. Come on and join us.